Hi, with us today is Maureen Fabry, who runs the CraftsRoots microbrewery in Milford. And Maureen, welcome.
Thank you.
And the empty chair is for Matt Winsky of Milford TV, who's going to join us in the second half of the show. We're actually going to sample your products. But how did you get into brewing?
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you, Al. Thank you. I got into brewing about 20 years ago. Started out as a home brewer, like most brewers do, and just fell in love with it. It combines so many things I love, and just instantly beer, having fun, good times, a lot of kind of hands-on, some science, but mostly just creating something tangible that is for sharing and having fun.
But you've got experience from a brewery everyone knows in this state.
Yes, I do. I last worked with Berkshire Brewing Company out in Western Mass, in South Deerfield, and prior to that worked in the Boston market for a while, Boston Beer Works and John Harvard's before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Boston Beer Works produces Sam Adams, correct?
That's Boston Beer Company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Different place.
Yeah,
But
different
just-
Boston Beer Company, but you're not alone. There was
Okay, what
quite
did
the legal
Boston Beer
battle.
Works produce?
So they have a number of brew pubs, and they have a wide variety that they serve in their tap rooms and brew pubs in Framingham, Boston, Salem.
Now, brew
Okay.
pubs are beginning to be the big thing, the big exciting thing.
they
Freshly
are.
brewed, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are. That and tasting rooms, brew pubs that are featuring their brewery as a location to come sample the beers and possibly have food with it or not, but having the brewery location be a destination.
Okay. Now let's fast forward a couple of years. You took time off for kids,
I did. Yes.
and in the last year or two, you started CraftsRoots.
I did, yes.
And where are you now with the company?
So I am really pleased to say that I'm having a lot of trouble keeping up with demand with the product. So the goal was to have a phase one start on a very small scale, pilot brewing here in Milford, kind of testing out to see what the reception would be, not just for the beers.
You're sold at Hickey's Liquors on Route 85.
That's right.
I'm sorry, 16, East Main Street. And you're also sold in the Depot Street Tavern.
Correct.
And that's it for now.
That's it for now. I can really only provide to those two outlets, and even at that, it's tough
Struggle.
to keep up. Yeah.
And
with
then where are you going from there? Obviously, the reception's been very good.
It has been, thankfully. We're really grateful that Milford has embraced us as Milford's brewery.
Okay.
And our aim now is to go to the next level, having still on the small side, a production brewery where we can feature our same pilot brews that we've started with and expand out a little bit to some other ones, but also add a pouring license so that we could have a tasting room for folks to come in. Yeah, you know, what's really kind of core to the CraftsRoots idea is to be sort of a community anchor, and we're really pleased that Milford has embraced us as Milford's brewery and have it be a location for folks to come together, not just to try the beer, but to be together and celebrate our town.
Have you found a place yet?
We are looking. We are actively looking. I think we're having some pretty serious talks on something that looks great, fantastic.
There are some nice vacant storefronts in downtown that would
There are a lot.
really be a good anchor.
There are a lot, and that's precisely what we want to do. We don't aim to ever get so big that we are outside of Milford. We truly want to be a neighborhood hub kind of brewery.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be great.
Thank
Be
you.
good for Milford.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we think so.
I think I told you in sending you out to come on the show, I've been blessed. I have a 25-year-old son who likes to sample, and he took me to the Russian River Brewery in California. I have another son in college in Kansas City, Missouri, and they have several microbreweries. So you get a chance to really see what other people are doing. And I've been to some in the highway area where you just literally go in and buy by the shot glass.
The dilemma is that some of the microbreweries have turned into big deals and no longer
Yes.
are microbreweries.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that some of them have lost their focus. It's nice to hear that your focus is going to be a microbrewery here in Milford, as opposed to becoming a nationwide giant place.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's like not in the plans for us at all. And
Okay.
one thing that makes, that's so key about that, all the ingredients I'm using are sourced from local growers and local craft maltsters and small hop farms in the region. So that's paramount to what
Where do
we're
they come
doing.
from? Are they all Massachusetts or?
Some are Massachusetts, some are Vermont, some are New York. So right now our malts are coming from Maine as well, Maine Malt House, Blue Ox Malt House, Valley Malt out in Western Mass, Peterson
Okay.
Quality Malt. Four Star Farms out in Northfield, Massachusetts provides just about all of our hops. But I have a couple of small hop farmers just in this area within 10 miles.
Well,
that
that's
also
the
help.
latest. The latest thing now is small hop farming.
Yes,
But
yeah,
the investment is a little more than like growing green beans or whatever,
for
because
sure.
yeah, the hops
Yeah.
have to be grown a specific way. But
Right.
it's nice to see that we're moving more in a direction of local farm, small quantity stuff.
We are. It's kind of a throwback to the way things used to
Yes.
be pre-prohibition. And if you look at New York State, they actually have a requirement that I believe it's 20% of the ingredients for farm breweries have to be grown within their state. And while that's not the case, it's still kind of an open thing here in Massachusetts. But whether or not that's something required of me legally as a brewer, that's where I'm going 100% with sourcing my ingredients.
In
because I believe
anticipation
in
that
it.
that's going to happen.
I think it will, but mostly because I believe that that's what lends the most freshness to the beer, and that's also what's supporting your community. And I think people really want to know not only that their beer is brewed locally, but that it's grown locally. And they want to know who the brewer is, but also who the artisans and the growers are that are making those
Okay.
ingredients.
So right now you have 3 varieties,
I do.
3 flavors. What's the proper terminology?
But
I
what's
like
the difference?
Okay.
What's the difference between the two of the
Okay,
three?
you have a blonde ale, an India
Yeah.
Pale Ale, and a red Indian Pale Ale.
Correct, yes. So kind of a twist here. So I'm starting off with a blonde ale, which would be a really good beer for someone who possibly hasn't tried craft beer. It's very, it has a bit of a hop character to it, but not a real hop bite like an IPA would have. Very smooth, very mellow malt flavor. And then moving up the chain, the IPA that I feature here, again, it's about 57 IBUs, so it's not a crazy hoppy India Pale Ale, but it's super super
Okay, and
flavorful.
IBU is a measure?
Yes, it's International Bitterness Unit, so
Oh,
it
okay.
refers to just about how bitter you're.
So if you drink an
flavor.
IPA, it's the bitterness is measured on a scale.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just like
Okay.
a hot pepper could be measured for its
On the
its
Scoville unit,
hotness.
yeah.
Yes.
So you have
exactly.
a red IPA as well.
Yeah, so that's the twist I was referring to. So within the category of IPA, there's just been an explosion of different varieties of IPAs within that category. So this is a red IPA, so it features the hops, but it also features much more of a malt body than you might typically get in a regular IPA. It's got a nice ruby hue to it from some of the malts I've selected too.
Okay, now I'm told there's a difference between more malty and more hoppy.
For sure.
Is that true? How does that
For
work?
Sure. Yeah, so there are just different ingredients or components to the brewing recipe. And the malty character really is sort of that bready or kind of roasty or toasty flavor you might get. Whereas hops can run the range from spicy or earthy all the way up to kind of citrusy, piney. So there's
Okay.
really sort of a balance, I guess, of those two, sweetness and more spicy character.
Okay. Now I noticed one of the things you do is you actually date each label
I do.
as to when it was brewed.
I do.
Why is that?
It's super important for me for folks to know how fresh the beer is. So the date when I fill the bottle is indicated, but you can count back about 2 weeks from that date to when it was brewed. So that's how rapidly I'm going from the process of beginning fermentation to getting it into the bottle and into your hands. So
Okay.
as we speak now, most beers are being consumed within about 4 weeks of them being brewed. And that freshness you can really taste. Super fresh.
Okay, so I noticed one of the bottles says January 15th or 5th,
Fifth?
and we're taping this on January, I believe it's the 13th today. So
Yes,
this
sir.
was bottled 8 days ago.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that would mean it was brewed within the last 3 weeks, if I'm following your
That's right.
calculation?
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, I think right around mid-month, December, yeah.
Interesting.
And two, with hoppier beers like IPAs, freshness matters. The hops tend to dissipate a little bit over time, so sooner you can drink those IPAs, the better.
Okay.
Interesting. So I'm wondering, my experience with drinking beer is if it bubbles and pops when you open the top, you drink it. My son has brought me into the you know, the microbrews.
That's
but
because my kids are
Yeah, I
for
mean,
me.
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in the age where, you know, it has a pop top on it, oh boy.
Right, yeah, well, that was my day too. I mean, in college, consumed a lot of that American light lager, and it really wasn't until I tasted some of the beers from Boston Beer Company and Sam Adams that I discovered that there's just a whole realm of flavor out there, and it became very exciting as a brewer to explore that
Yeah, there's nothing
historically.
like having your 20-something son take you to a place that has 30 different flavors, varieties of beer, and he decides we're going to try them all.
And then you ask, how big are the glasses?
About as big as what you
That's
brought
still
here.
a lot.
But it's interesting. Again, I think Al and I grew up in an era when there were nationally known brands.
Beer is beer. Here you
And
go.
then my parents had lived in the Midwest for a while and were telling me, well, there's like Midwest brands.
Right.
And, I remember when Coors, getting Coors out of Colorado was a big deal.
Yes.
That was a big issue, big
Yeah.
deal.
Somebody at college, in Rhode Island, had parents living in the West, and they drove out to see him and came out with cases of
Yeah.
Coors. And it was like, hey, guys, Coors.
Try this.
Right.
And the parents were taking back Narragansett from Rhode Island to Colorado. So
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting. What I'd like to ask is, you're looking at a location. What timetable are you? When are we going to see a brew pub
My,
in Milford that we can stop in at?
My hope would be the sooner the better. We've been working hard on a business plan, working hard on discussing terms of a lease, as I've mentioned. Some of these things do take time, but
Yes, they do.
my hope is that we can proceed quickly from the proof of concept phase where we are now to reality.
I mean, are we talking calendar year 16? Are we talking 17?
I think we're firmly in 16. It would
Oh,
be
that'd
my
be great.
hope. Yeah, it would be my hope to have this happen 6 to 9 month timeline.
Oh, that's
Or,
great.
yeah. Primarily because I have the farmer brewery permit already and all the licensing with the federal and the state and the town, so it would be a
You
change
said
of
you don't want it-
location.
Yeah, just change location.
Yeah,
you're
I
good to
mean,
go.
there's going to be some renovations and
So the
acquiring
last thing you
equipment,
need
but-
would just be the typical malt license from the town, as
Yeah,
they call it.
yeah, it would be a pouring permit.
Right.
So that would be something that's provided by the Massachusetts ABCC in
ABC,
concert
right.
with the town.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some permitting hurdles and some site location hurdles, but
Well, once you, as you well know, having been a selectman, you know that there are certain specifications with
Yes.
the liquor
sure.
permits. I mean, the number of doors, who's manager, all those
sure.
Number of
specifics.
doors, is everybody gone through the age training?
correct, yeah.
All
yeah.
that, all this.
Yes, and of course we want to comply, of course, with all that.
But I think you're not going to get the average 21-year-old looking for a quick beer. I think you're going to get the beer enthusiasts coming in from far and wide in the area,
become
trying to
quite a-
sample what you have.
That's what we're seeing,
Yeah.
yeah, at Depot Street Tavern, for sure. We're seeing lots of craft beer enthusiasts coming in, looking for it from other towns. And we certainly want to be rooted here in Milford, but there's a lot of destination brewery tourism, if you want
Right,
to
and
call it now.
one of the things I
Yeah.
see is interesting, is people come in what they call the growler jug,
Yes,
and you're able to fill it up.
Yes.
You don't do that now.
we do not, so.
But you'd be able to do that?
I would be, yes, in a commercial location,
A
yes,
growler jug,
absolutely.
that's a
So-
new one.
Growler
So-
is, why don't you explain?
Yeah, so it's a 64-ounce container, which is a half gallon. So the idea is you come into the production brewery, you sample the beer, and you decide which one you want to take home. So the growler is that glass jug, which is then filled on site for you to take away.
Oh, it's kinda
That
like-
could be another stainless steel or ceramic.
It's like a
but
bucket of beer.
Pretty much,
I
yeah.
mean,
But it's,
I remember beer buckets.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, why don't you come up and join us? Again, Matt Winsky from Milford TV has volunteered.
I mean, it's not like you're getting,
I heard IPAs and I came running.
oh, wow, see, there we go.
Okay.
Don't fall out of the
I
chair.
Try
think
not
that the easiest thing to do this, rather than reusing glasses, is maybe if the three of us each pick one and try it and give our impressions. What do you think of that? Or do you want
I'm-
to try all three?
could do that. I could pour a small amount of each.
I'd like to
and
try
we can
all
work
of
our way
them,
through.
but because I'm not a microbrewery kind
Okay,
of.
Maureen, we'll put you in
The
charge.
blonde ale first, right?
Yeah, let's start with the blonde
You
ale.
go with
If I
this-
can get this open.
Oh, that's not a problem.
A little out of practice. So yeah, we'll start with the blonde ale, only because it's going to be a little bit lighter in flavor, and don't want to hinder our palate a little bit by the.
Oh, you even have numbers on them.
Well, that wasn't by design, but
Wow, cool.
it'll help us keep them straight. There you are.
So this is a
Pass
lighter
this
ale.
to you.
Someone like,
Oh,
you
thanks.
know,
No, I don't want two. I want
used to
one.
like a Budweiser or something like that, if you
Maybe.
will, because
Yeah.
Oh, this is light, yeah.
There you are.
So this is the more malty, lighter.
This smells
variety?
like beer.
Yeah, so this one is definitely a little bit lighter in color, thank you, than the IPA and the red IPA. I wouldn't say it's necessarily lighter in body. It's kind of got a
Yeah,
nice
good,
sort of
good.
creamy mouth.
Yeah, so
feel
it
to
doesn't
it.
flavor there, you know.
Definitely
Yeah.
some
It's,
flavor.
It's good.
Thank you.
It's a beer smell. I mean, if you've had a beer, it smells like beer.
You've been on the floor in a bar, you smell beer.
I think that this might appeal to someone who may not have a lot of experience trying craft beer.
Ooh, that's very
This
good.
reminds me, actually,
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Great.
in England I tried something called Whitbread's Pale Ale.
Okay, yeah.
And this reminds me very much of that, the taste and the aftertaste.
It's just kind of like a Pilsner almost.
It does resemble a Pilsner,
Pilsner,
yeah.
No, I had a friend that was really into Pilsners
Okay.
and even had Pilsner glasses,
Yeah. Pilsner or Kel is really a great example of kind of a deep golden hued Pilsner that's got a lot of sort of bready character to it. Not a ton of hops, but some hop
That's good.
contrast there. Thank you.
That's very good.
But that's what I'm hoping to do with this
I might
one
even
is
drink
draw
that.
people in who may not think they like craft beer but are willing to give it a try and,
that's very
and
good.
experience it. Thank
It
you.
has that great aftertaste too.
Yeah,
There's a little
it's not
flavor
bitter,
there.
yeah,
It's
but
not,
it's not
not too
bitter.
bitter, but it just has a little
No,
flavor. It's really
it's
great.
there.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's very nice.
Wow, it's smooth. It's good. It's, almost.
Thanks, guys.
It's
Like
not
drinking bourbon.
excessively carbonated like some
Right,
American beers
right.
are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you expect the burping to start. Sorry, I don't know what else to say.
That's good. I like that. Okay, let's all have a nice, good beer burp.
Well, you think of a typical frat party where the guy's sitting around going, afterwards, but I also notice you have
Oh, no.
hops on the bottle caps.
Yeah, we do have hops on the bottle cap. Trying to just feature that, that the beer itself is made with real ingredients, and craft beer consumers are getting so much more savvy all the time. But we
No,
really
it's not an artichoke or a green strawberry, it's hops.
Oh, I thought it was a green strawberry.
Have another one, Al.
No, I didn't start earlier, I promise.
Another thing about this beer too is we have 6% alcohol content on this one, which is pretty
That's high.
decent,
Yeah.
yeah, for a blonde ale. So you might kind
you
of feel that in the
Yeah.
aftertaste. There's like a bit of warming.
Usually find that
from
like
it.
a IPA or something like that's a little bit higher alcohol content, but
Right,
with a
right.
blonde ale.
This
Yeah,
is
we-
very
This
good.
is,
Thank you.
I'm actually sipping it, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
you.
I could easily see, I don't know if I could do a whole, how many ounces is that bottle?
This is a 22-ounce bottle, so
Wow,
it's perfect for sharing.
I don't know if I could do the whole 22
come
ounces
on.
anymore, but this is very nice.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying it.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm
really.
glad. That's what I love to hear.
That's very good.
Shall we move on to the IPA?
Oh,
Sure.
Oh,
absolutely.
it sounds great to me.
All right. So this one features Centennial hops, Chinook hops, and Cascade hops. And
wow.
yeah, these are all from Four Star Farm, who I mentioned out in Northfield. And this one's about 7% ABV. And you can see it's still pretty light.
I want about a third of what he's
Yeah.
got there.
Oh, right.
I'm driving.
That's right, because we're moving on to beer number 3 after this. Well, we'll go a little heavier on you
Okay,
there.
thank you. I'm
welcome.
driving after
There
this.
you are.
That's
About
absolutely
to
Me
fantastic.
too.
say, not
That
too
is
much.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Not too much. I don't want to.
But sometimes you get that bitterness with an IPA, which I don't mind
Yes.
personally, but a lot of people are turned off by that. But
Yeah.
this has just that taste, but smooth too, which is just excellent.
Thank you.
There's
Thank you.
traditional beer smell not there.
Ooh.
And let's,
Ooh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's such a range, really, what you can
But
accomplish
there's a
with
bit
hops.
of bitterness that's
yeah, I
just-
don't know
just
how to
enough,
describe it, just that it's sitting there. If I'm reading something with spices, I almost describe the heat staying on, but this is,
So do you find there's a real importance with the different kinds of hops you're using? Because I went to a local brew store around me, and they just had so many different kind of hops. So I wanted to try growing some in my backyard, and
Yeah.
I got one, and it did wonderful. But there are just so many different types, you know.
what did you
There
do with
are.
them?
I keep meaning to brew, but every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. One of these years I'm actually gonna actually do it, but it's like almost like a weed though. That once that plant starts going, it will go high, raise, and everywhere.
It is. You really can't kill them once you put them in the ground. I
Yeah.
mean, there's definally
So hops are
a
like
trick.
kudzu? I mean,
Yeah,
they just take over the world.
I mean, they are
Kudzu.
they are a native plant, and New York State is a vast hop producer now, growing all the time, and we're at just the right latitude as the Pacific Northwest, so they do really, really well here.
Yeah.
And I have some native hops that my neighbor across the street let me transplant. over onto my property, and they're doing the same thing. They're growing gangbusters. But yeah, there's just this whole range of flavor
Yeah,
and
the-
aroma
the-
you can get from hops. It's pretty overwhelming, the
I like
options.
the first one better,
I'm
but
just
this
trying to
is good.
feature the ones that do well here in New England and
Yeah, that's
highlight
great.
what the farmers are up
The,
to.
Yeah.
the bitterness is there
Yeah.
behind it, but there is almost no taste beyond that to me.
It's a lot of aroma. Yeah, there's definitely some after,
Yeah, after,
lingering
right,
bitterness.
lingering, yes, yep.
I'm trying to feature the aroma that's kind of citrusy,
Yep.
kind of.
Yeah,
piney.
I'd almost do it to the equivalent of like eating something with a different type of pepper in it, where, you know, the heat that sits there afterwards for a while. That's
Might be good with Mexican food,
Tasting.
something like that, that's got a little bite to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even I see at 7% alcohol, it's not an overwhelming taste. Sometimes it's overwhelming with the higher alcohol
Yeah.
content I found. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You can get some IPAs and double IPAs that are up around 8.5%, 9%, and
Yeah.
you know it's really hard to get through a 22-ounce bottle, let alone a full pint of it sometimes.
Seriously.
And if you're in the mood for that, I mean, I really love those hoppier beers too.
Yeah.
But this is one that's maybe a little bit more drinkable, a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could stick with it.
This is not one that you drink, just sit and drink, I don't think. This is you'd have with,
Well, I can, but maybe not.
yeah, well, now if it was scotch, I could probably.
So this is the red India Pale Ale, and you'll see this has a totally different color to it.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
And you know, again, it's
And again, I'd
got
like just a
little bit.
tiny,
Same
yeah,
with me.
that's about enough.
There you go. Maybe you'll notice
amount.
a little more of a bready flavor to it. Oh, there you go.
That's okay.
Well, you can look at the foam is a lot different in color, too.
Yeah, this one maybe has
Darker?
a little more
Interesting
carbonation
smell,
to
different smell.
Darker, little less easy to see through,
it.
and
Yeah, not
Oh,
quite
it's
as
the,
bright.
very good. Very, very good.
the blonde ale.
Thank you.
There's
Ooh,
a flavor in there. I can't quite put my finger. Is it the hops? Like it's almost like an earthy flavor, but
For
it's,
sure.
you know what I mean in there. But like
Yeah.
it's
I'm trying to
excellent. It's
read
not
the
too
labels
overwhelming.
too.
You know.
I'm
Thank
trying to
you.
read the label as to what's in here. It is, yeah, earthy. I'm not
Yeah, I'm
trying to-
getting
how to
that
describe
earthy
it.
thing too. I think some of that is from the malt, that kind of, I use some rye and some chocolate rye, so it has a little bit of some chocolate notes to it there.
Okay.
That's to give it some color, and the rye adds a little bit of spiciness to it too. So that may be some of the earthiness. I think the hops that I'm using as well, they're
Yeah, it's a different,
giving a different feeling.
yeah, it's, if you could just try to describe it as maybe less bitter, more earthy. I don't
Yeah.
know if that.
Yeah.
it doesn't have the
you
bitterness.
used the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I'm getting it. I would never guessed the differences in beers. This is interesting.
Now, are these recipes you've had for a long time, or you've just been tinkering with throughout the years and kind of perfected, or?
Yeah, so the concept of the recipes are kind of ones I've worked on before, but using the actual malts that I'm using now, that's
Yeah.
brand new. So a lot of these malt houses, craft maltsters, are just starting to pop up. So I'm acquainting myself with the ingredients that they have and testing them out in small batches.
And it's
so
purely a
kind of
taste.
tweaking them.
You're driven by taste. I mean, you
For
sit and
sure.
taste so
Well,
you taste it and figure out, oh, this is okay, this is where I want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, but of paramount importance is really utilizing those local suppliers. So what they have available to me, then I'll try to tailor my recipe around that.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the holy grail for a lot of beer drinkers in the past has been absolute adherence to consistency, having the beer taste totally the same every time out. And while I want consistently high quality product, I'm okay with trying different
A little different.
ingredients. Just
I mean,
to
that
kind
was,
of
that was the
feature
next question
year
I
to
had, is
year.
how do you ensure, or do you ensure consistency batch to batch when you're brewing in small batches? So you
Right.
don't mind varying them
Right.
slightly?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I certainly want people to get what they're expecting from the IPA. But from one growing season to the next, I think a Cascade hop can taste different, or from one hop farm to another, the agriculture can make it
Well, the
have
ground,
slightly
the
different.
chemicals,
Yeah.
what, the basic chemical makeup of the ground, I mean, which is more acid or more base, it's,
That's more of a natural way to do it too, because I mean, it's kind of
Yes.
strange when everything tastes the same all the time. You know,
Right.
seasons change, soil changes, things change. That
Right.
maybe there should be a little hints of
And
difference
now
in
have you
each
thought
batch,
about-
you know?
Yeah.
have you
I
thought about
agree.
doing like a cherry wheat or something like that? Either kind?
Yeah, I sure have. There's really some great fruit farms around here, and I would love to feature some of the locally grown fruits to have a wheat beer for the summer, some seasonal beers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that can be drawn upon Craft brewers are known for their innovation, and to be able to do that and kind of push some new styles or tweak and innovate on old styles would be a lot of fun.
So we could expect me a pistachio beer?
I hadn't thought of that, but
I don't know, I think I told you about when my son took me to Russian River in California, they had the one that they had a deal with some of the Napa vineyards, that they aged the beer in old wine casks.
Right.
And one of the beers, my son said, you got to try this. It tastes like Burgundy wine. And I'm sitting there going, okay, it looks like beer. How can it taste like Burgundy wine? And I swore I was drinking a glass of Burgundy wine when I had that beer. It was not beer at all. And I don't know the chemistry of it. You know, maybe you do, but I mean, you know, you're starting to see the more and more people be aware of, like, do you put a piece of fruit in it when you drink it? Do you, or it has fruit in it when you do it, or it has, you know, the overtones. I think it's becoming almost like wine in how you describe craft beer.
I think that's very true, and I think people are really becoming increasingly knowledgeable about the process that's used to make beer and the people who are growing it, and they want to understand more about it.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who, I don't want to name any one of the giant brewers, but rather than going to the Packy on the way home and getting a 6-pack of blank beer, they'd rather try something like this, especially at a small gathering of people.
Now,
Yeah.
are you thinking about putting it in smaller bottles, or you going to stay with this size bottle?
I think for now we're going to stick with 22s. I fill them all myself individually by hand, so I can do a lot more 22-ounce bottles at a time than the little 12 ones.
But as you say,
but
they're good for a couple.
they are. They're good for sharing.
2 11-ounce glasses.
Yeah, they're
Or
really
one
great for
18
sharing.
and one.
Yeah, right.
Or
In some cases, just put a nipple on it and you're good to go.
put a straw in it and hand it over.
It's all good to go.
Super Bowl's coming. No,
But
We
you never
won't
know.
fit in
I
the
mean-
hat, though, that's a problem.
Yeah, right.
well,
Put a little padding around that.
no, we're joking about it, but I think there's more of a recognition today for
Absolutely.
craft. Just how about the name CraftsRoots? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so the idea of roots is super important. So I've said before that we want to be recognized as beer that has a sense of place. So we know where the ingredients come from, and we also know our community that we're brewing for, so that people feel like this is their product and they can connect with their brewer and their local farmers. So it's something that kind of is a very grounding idea. It's a nice play on the word grassroots as well, which is sort of
So
groundswell. from the
I know
ground
if
up.
I go to Five Guys, they have the chalkboard that says where the potatoes for the
Yeah.
fries were grown.
Yeah.
Am I going to walk in when you open up and it's going to tell me the names of the farms where the
I would
hops and the other ingredients come from?
That'd be an interesting.
I
if
would
we-
love that transparency. I would love for folks to know not only who the farmers are, where the hops came from, but exactly what varieties are in every beer, so that people can really begin to know what a Cascade hop tastes like, or what
Okay.
I think that'd be fabulous.
Okay. I see your clock is running down, so one last question. Until you open, right now you're only available in bottles at Hickey's
That's right.
on East Main Street and at Depot Street Tavern on obviously Depot Street. But we should look throughout 2016 for a grand opening somewhere.
Correct. Yeah.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.